So in the new update for Trailmakers, they completely changed how skis work, and they made it so that left and right, like on the sides of them, they have friction, but on the front and back they don't, and at the bottom they don't, which is a really interesting component, and I kind of hope that we get different tractions on more blocks now, like more sides, more blocks. That's a tangent, that is not what I want. And then if I go ahead and grab a space thruster, you can see if I hit space and then have any stabilization, because I just realized this is just a really tiny platform with skis. I'll put that like that, that like that. Okay, here we can see that I'm just getting like a lot of resistance. Whereas if I put this back here, we're getting like barely any resistance at all. So we're actually speeding up really fast. And what I've made from that is something that can ski on the ice pretty cleanly. And then it pushes off. The important thing though is that it rotates the foot for the friction side to be in contact when it pushes off. Because otherwise it would just be sliding in place, but because it rotates that foot and then bends outwards a little bit, we're actually getting forward momentum from both the bending outward motion and the going back motion. Now, this could be tuned to be like way better, and that's just not something that I spend a ton of time on, but I did want to go over how this works. Now, how the logic works for that, we're going to ignore that, because that is just for the standing. Like, if I'm not pressing W, it will, like, auto-lean. Like, auto-sneak, basically. But, this is the main logic, and this is for turning, because I wanted high damping on this, but I didn't want to turn at that speed, so I have half of that going into that, and then that makes me turn slower, but it has the dampening. But all of these, well, it's basically just like these two are the main timing gates. Each one is on W positive and is on 0.5, 0.5 for duration and pause. However, because one of them is delayed by 0.5, what that does when I spawn in is it goes left, right, left, right, left, right, because every other one, like, it's delayed, so by the 0.5 duration that the left one is doing, after that, the right one, which is on the delay of 0.5, will trigger, and then because they're both on the same pause and duration, that'll, like, balance out. Those two then run into 50% gates that just trigger when the leg goes forwards, so that the leg doesn't go forwards quite as much as it goes backwards, which means that you can get a good push off. Or it might be inverse. Let me see. This one is 0.5, yeah, it's running into this, meaning that the leg will raise higher up forwards and then push down with less angle, meaning that it's higher, so we can actually have the walking motion. And then this is just running into this for the forward. So both of these are running into those two, these two, and that. And what that's going to do is it's going to push this one backwards, so it's going to push this leg out this way. And then it is going to, after that, because these are on a delay, and they're at low speed, after that is going to push it outwards, which is that motion that we did when we go outwards. And that's just from these two. Meanwhile, this bends the knee over here, so that's not too bad. And then this does the exact opposite, so it will push this one back, rotate this to be outward so we can get the friction side of the ski, and then, after a short delay, rotate that one outward, so we have left, right, left, right, left, right. And once you actually build up any momentum, which it's a little bit difficult to, like, once again, the system could use a lot more tuning. But it's actually pretty good and pretty fast once you do that. I used to have a joint in the ankle that would keep the feet level, however, having them not level when it comes to the the roll axis, like right here, means that we can really get into the side of the ski here and dig into the ice. So let's go ahead and build one from scratch. I do have that saved. Okay, so we're gonna get a seat down, get gyro stabilizers down, because I will probably need those. I'm not a good enough builder yet to make something that doesn't need them, really, without having some sort of stabilization. And then I'm just gonna set the strength to like 4-ish, that we might increase that later. I'll put a gyro here. I'm going to unbind the keys so that we can program the walking easier. And then put 2 legs on. Leave room for the joints to go like that. I'm gonna move that to in front because it's just a little more compact. And then after this point, we want the leg to go straight down. So I'm gonna have that. And that. I'll connect that with some flat connectors, because why not? Usually I'd use like the eyeball piece or something, but I don't... It doesn't matter that much. So, I'm not gonna, like, need to use it. And then, around, I would say, there, maybe give it one more block. We should probably have a knee of some kind. Put that going like that on each side. And then I'm gonna use a rounded piece right here so that it doesn't connect to the next part of the leg that we build. Put one of those there, just a 2x2x2, and right here, these flat connectors, or not all of them, I just want to select these two, duplicate them, move them over. So now what we have is a hip, we have the outwards motion of the hip, and then we have the knee. I find it best that we don't have an ankle because of the angle thing from before, where the skis operate better when we're on the side of them. So then I'm just going to attach that directly, and let's go with the big ski this time. Let's see what that does. Okay. And then I'm going to select all of these, turn that off. I'll select both of these, right and left. When this is rotating, like, left, I want to remove that. When this is rotating this way, I want to remove that. And that is where we get to the first part of logic gates, because I removed those so that we could have the less angle, so that when it goes like this, it is higher up than if it were like the full angle, and that'll keep it so that when going forwards it can be higher up, so that the back leg can be the thing contacting the ground. So what we're going to do is just put an A into there, put a D into that, remove the A, set both of these to 0.5. I'm actually going to set this one to positive A and then negative 0.5, which does the same exact thing, but it means that when we get to the timing logic, all I have to do is run a positive signal directly into that, which shouldn't be too hard. I'll hook those into both of the little servos there, and then, yeah, if I go like that, that happens. Okay. We could use a little bit more stabilization, so I'm going to do like maybe 6. Okay. That probably works out well. And then when going forwards, so D on this one, D, I want it to rotate that way, and on this one, I want it to rotate that way for A, which is the opposite. So that way we have this kind of, like, it just picks up the foot. And then I want to, if I press A, it will make the left foot go out, which means we want this to be on A. speed 2. I flipped which direction that was going to go. So we're going to let that to be a positive A. And then we want this to be, I believe, negative D 2 speed. So we have dot, dot. And all things considered, without even the correct motion for part of this, this is kind of looking like a good motion, like animation. I'm going to set like a... Well, we're just going to go with the same delay, 0.25 on those two. And then we're going to hook them up, so on A, I want this to rotate negative. On D, I want this to rotate positive. And that's a little bit obnoxious. So we're going to turn down the angle on that to maybe 20 degrees. Oh, I do want to have this have more power so we're not just rotating. Set that to like 8. Okay. The knee doesn't bend enough, so what we're going to do is select all of these joints, set the max angle to like 60. Huh. Because these are here, this was getting like clipped into there, so I'm just going to move those up. Yeah. There's probably a way to angle the foot even more to get the side of the thing that we need so, like, well. But all things considered, for not having a timing circuit, this is reducing thrust. And because it's kind of doing this, like, bouncing thing that it's doing, I'm going to select these. Just all of the servos, basically, except those two. I'm going to set the strength to maybe 40? Yeah, we're going to try 40. Yeah. And then... It seems to be, like, being hung up on these two servos. Like, it's stopping them a little bit before they can move. So I'm going to re-increase the strength of those to maybe, like 65. Go like that. That seems a little bit better. And then if I really get into, like, a good timing of this, it goes dot, 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 dot. And we're already going like 40 miles an hour. And the bonus side of how this works is that it can kind of also walk on land. It can't really walk uphill because it will just like slip because it's still skis. And it walks a lot faster on the ice, especially if they get going into a good rhythm. But it can like get you onto the ice from. And then I just have to make a timing circuit for the and then I'm going to make this -1 because it's going to be easier to input the logic when everything's positive, which means that for D, yeah, I do have to make this negative 0.5. Yeah, and then that works out fine. And then I want to make that, like, the same thing for the rest of them, so this is on A, I'm going to set it to positive A, -1, because it's going to be way easier if all of the logic is positive, because then I don't have to worry about, oh hey, this side happened, like this thing happens at the same time as this thing, but they need different signals. They could all be negative too, and that would have the same effect, but I'm just going to go with positive. Put that on D, -1. Then there should be one more right here. Yep. D, -2. It's important that these move faster than the rest because then they can get set up like, faster instead of needing to be part of the sequence, like, partway through. And then every, like, dot, 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 dot. That kind of seems like a 0.4, maybe a 0.3 timing, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place 2 logic blocks, just 2 OR gates, connect them both to W on positive, set the duration to 0.4, 0.4. One of these is going to be A, and one of these is going to be D, like, effectively, like, this would be A, this would be D, and it's just going to do the same stuff. Although, I am going to change the delay of one of these to 0.4. That'll cause it to wait till this one's already done a cycle to alternate, just like that. Are the inputs to both of these positive? Yep. And then I can just hook up... Okay, so which one's this going to be? This should be A. So I'm going to hook this up into everything that has A in it. Which is that, and that. And then I'm going to hook up this to everything that has D. Which is that, that, this one, and then that one. And then because it's all positive, it should... Okay, 0.4 is a little bit fast. And by a little bit, I mean a decent bit. So we're just going to change that to... Let's overshoot 0.5 and just go straight to 0.6, because that did seem really fast. And that is just like in, I believe, milliseconds how long it's going to take. Okay. Well, if I hit right and left... Manually timed is just going to be better for this, because you can get better dynamics, which you can just completely skip the logic for that, and then just keep it on left and right, and then use like Q and E for turning. However, I do want to make this logic-based. How do I fix that? It seems like a timing issue. Like, normally I would go dot, 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 and then I need to accelerate it, which I could do with a lot of logic, or I can just have it fumble at the start a little bit, and then have it go for a timing that is in between, like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. That would suggest that 0.5 is best, because I was doing 2 numbers every second. Okay. That's with manual, and I can switch over. And honestly, I kind of like having the manual controls just to get the acceleration going, and then being able to hold W like this. Okay. This is a little bit fast for accelerating, but it's not too bad. It's really just like bouncing because it's hitting off the ground really quickly when you need to wait for the like delay. I wonder if there's some way to like use... Well, there's some way to like use accumulators to change the timing with your speed and do that, but it's not my favorite. So, like, it's not my favorite to do on video because it's really complicated. It's not that complicated, but it is decently complicated, and not many people use it in mechs, have like accurate acceleration. But for stuff like this, where it kind of just like needs that to get up to speed, it is handy, I imagine. And then because I kind of want to keep that manual aspect to it, I'm going to set everything with D, which is those, to be on E instead, and everything on A to be on Q. and then I can still get that motion from it, and then when I want to, I can just hit, oh, I forgot to set these, D would be E, A would be Q, yeah, and then I can still get that motion, and then when I'm going fast enough, I'm going like 30, almost 40, I can switch over to manual, which is that, which is pretty fast. Gets up to like 40 consistently. And then what I can do is I can set this to A and to D. That is a little bit fast, which is why I'm going to use a logic gate. Because when you put a logic gate into one of these, it will, like, turn by the effect that it has. So if I put 0.5 in, it'll do 4 on this turn rate instead of 8. Because that's what half of that is, and then that's pretty smooth. I wonder if there's an alternate way to stop the bouncing. Maybe I can add suspension. Okay, first off, I think one thing that's going to help, though, is setting this all the way to 10, because it had just been, like, an error there. And then, even just with W, this can start, like, going now that it doesn't have that stability issue as much. Okay. I moved this up and just put the gates from right here to inwards. And then, let's look at, maybe not directly, oh, we're gonna have to do directly, or just delete all of those, put a panel there, and then we can have block spacers between the suspension that I'm gonna add. And we want this to be fairly stiff, so I'm gonna go with maybe like 0.8 for both to start, but I'm sure we can tune it after. This is a lot of comp, in fact it's 20 extra per leg, but like this is a small build, so I'm really not too worried about it. Okay, just holding W. The suspension does not seem to be compressing much, which means that I need to put less into it. Let's just try half of that. Kind of, like, break it down into, like, a search analytic, not a search analytic, a, search algorithm. Go halfway. And this isn't too bad. It does seem to be absorbing some of the speed that it could have. Let's just try the default at 0.5. 0.5. 0.5. And even from standing still, that's a pretty good launch, and we're, like, pretty much capping out at 40, which is about the same. We're not averaging 40, we're averaging a little bit below, but honestly, for the stability and for being able to, go from stopped to going, I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, well, I do hope you enjoyed this video. It is another mech one, so those typically tend to do well on my channel, so I think a lot of people enjoy the how to make different kinds of mech series. I do want to make a 4-legged tutorial at some point. I did one kind of with the dog thing, but that was like when I first figured it out, and I've actually gotten like a decent bit better at making them since, so I do want to make a tutorial on that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and see ya.